it requires you to use every possible part of your brain. It's much more, I found it was much more in-depth and much more complex in Spanish in that respect because of the way, the demands of the program and how advanced the curriculum was. And I think if we were to lose the middle school Latin program, we wouldn't be able to cover as much ground at the high school level, and we wouldn't be able to get into such advanced subjects like Ovid and Caesar, which is currently what the Rham Latin program does.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Britta Hansen. I am a resident of Hebron. I'm also a speech-language pathologist. Work with students with special ed needs. I also participated in a Latin program, however not here at Rham. I can tell you that I have used Latin many, many times throughout my life, not only through my own personal education, but it is the first time for many students where English makes sense. So much of what English is taught is in what would be referred to as a hidden curriculum. Because you speak it and hear it, therefore you must understand it. That is absolutely incorrect. Because Latin is taught in such a systematic way, a thoughtful way, using terms such as conjugating a verb, for example, it is a remarkable tool for teaching English. It was already spoken to in terms of root words. In addition, prefixes and suffixes are there as well and are taught. They are not taught in the standard English curriculum. I've used it many times with my students. It is absolutely teaching my students to use, granted their limited English ability, in a much more functional way. So now many students are able to create a simple subject-verb-object sentence when they weren't able to before because we're conjugating verbs. They have subject-verb agreement. All of these things are taught very explicitly, as you spoke to so eloquently, in Latin. In addition, I do have a son who's here in the Latin program. He happens to be a freshman. But at home, I have a 6th grader, and I received the forms to choose his language. Would you please read the 2 only languages that are an option? So to me, I don't understand why no decision's been made, yet clearly I only have 2 options. As a parent who supports Latin, not only personally because of the success I had, my older son had, my younger son hopefully will not be denied. It's a fabulous language that offers so much. So at the very least, I would hope that this could be explained to me, or please tell me where I can bubble it in as a choice. Because as a parent receiving this, perhaps new to Hebron, we're definitely a growing community, despite what you're saying about decreases. We definitely have new people in town. They might not know what's going on, but Latin is valuable, and according to this paperwork that's due January 4th, it's not offered to my incoming 7th grade son. Thank you.
Howie Bryan from Hebron, and I just had a couple quick comments. Number one, I think it speaks volumes that my son wanted to come out tonight. He's a current Latin student, he's a junior, and dragged me with him. I didn't plan to speak in any way. But just a couple observations. Number one, I can't think of any other course that's more central to him being a well-rounded student, which I'm very proud of. And I was kind of surprised by that because I didn't have any background in Latin myself. And the second effect I think Latin has had upon him is I've seen him really become a citizen of the world and just have a widespread interest in a lot of different cultures and world politics and travel. I think it's really been very, very important, and I'm proud of that role that it's had in his development.
Thank you. Yes.
Kathy Green, Hebron. I can't speak as eloquently as any of these students, but very impressive. I did want to speak for both of my sons who are Latin students. One of them has gone on to study law, which he attributes to Latin. The other one has gone on to study neuroscience, which again, the vocabulary is very Latin-based. Both of them have told me if they did not start Latin in 7th grade, they never would have taken Latin. So that they thought that me coming to speak on their behalf tonight was very important. The other thing, that the intensity of the Latin program brings us to the point where they're reading in the original language. Steve Pingree is the only teacher who has ever called me up to tell me what to buy my son for Christmas, because my son was trying to read original Sanskrit. because he thought these ancient texts were so important that he should learn the original language, just like he was doing in Latin. So these classes open so many doors. It's just amazing, and I would be very disappointed to think that this were to end. As a science teacher here at Rham, I can tell you that the Latin students really benefit as far as the terminology, especially when I teach anatomy and medical careers, medical technology. It makes it so much easier for them. So I would encourage you to keep the program as is.
Dick Shea from Marlboro. A little bit different slant. It occurs to me that if this was industry and you had a critical skill that was in short supply, you would simply go out on the market, offer more money, and fill the position. When you're locked in with a rigid employee union contract where everybody is paid the same and the only pay measurement is how long you've been here, you're really kind of stuck when you have a situation like this. I think we're going to see more of it in the future. Nothing's going to change, but it's a sad state of affairs. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashley. I'm a junior here at Rham, and I'm from Marlboro. And I'd like to reiterate a couple of points that I've heard. First of all, regarding offering Latin in 7th grade. In 6th grade, I decided that I wanted to take Latin because I looked at the sheet and I said, my Spanish teacher ruined Spanish for me and I don't want to take French. But Latin seemed like a great option to me. I fell into it and I really loved it. And I know, speaking for me and speaking for a lot of people that don't like change, and if I had taken, let's say, French or Spanish in 7th grade, I don't think I would have changed, and I don't think, or changed languages, and I don't think I would have experienced this wonderful program that I've kind of fallen into because of our wonderful teachers. And also on the importance of 7th grade Latin, we went through 3 or so stages in the Cambridge Latin book, and that really set a baseline for Latin in 8th grade and 9th grade. You know, you learn the basic tenses, the basic nouns, and how you conjugate verbs, and how you decline nouns. And if we were to cut that, you would have to learn that in 8th grade, and I think that would just set the whole Latin program back, and you wouldn't be able to get to these very advanced things that we're doing right now. For example, we're reading the Aeneid by Virgil, and if we had, you know, suspended learning these very basic things in 7th grade, I don't know if we'd be able to get this far. And I think that's really important for Latin students to be able to get to this very real Latin, see some kind of tangible goal. So I think 7th grade Latin is very important. Thank you.
I'd like to say that, you know, going through 7th grade, it was really fun to go and see Latin. But yes.
Oh, you have to say your name and
Oh,
your town, please.
Peter Buza, Hebron.
Right.
I'm an 11th grader at Rham, also in Latin right now. And in 7th grade, when you went and you saw the kids that were taking Spanish and French, you know, all you'd hear from them is Spanish is easy, Spanish is boring, French is boring. But there was something about the Latin kids that really stuck out to me, being one of them, that we really like Latin. And it wasn't that it was, you know, necessarily the easiest class, because it wasn't. And it wasn't that it was the hardest class, and it wasn't that either, but it was something that everybody who went into Latin enjoyed it. Everybody loved it. Nobody, you know, needed to be forced into it because they enjoyed it for what it was. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
I'm James, Hebron. I'm in grade 10.
What's your last name? Sorry.
Aburame. I started Latin in 7th grade, and I've never wanted to go back. Not only does it help you in other classes, it's helped me so much this year in biology and English. Biology I struggle with a lot, but because of all the help I've gotten in Latin, it's helped me exceed in the class. And it also taught me great study habits. In Latin, you can't slack off for 1 second. you miss a day and you've got like so much homework. So it teaches you to always be studious and to not slack off. And I think that giving the students the ability to learn that in 7th grade sets them on their way through the entire high school career.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I don't want
Yeah, go ahead.
to, the town of Tremont saying this as a citizen, I only got 3 minutes too.
Or you get two.
I have no pull here.
We have the cord. You have a switch ready?
Now one.
All I want to say, I commend everybody here showing up, the parents and the students. And I'm serious about that, because we do have other groups that come here and they express, their feelings for it, but they want them. But this is the first one I've seen in a long time for an academic subject. I've been on the board, quite a number of years. But I'm glad to see that you still have groups, a group will come together and express themselves. Because you gotta be heard. If you're not heard, we're not sure, how many people really care about it. Not that we don't say, oh, there's only a couple, we don't care. You've already been told that the administration and Dr. Szyminski will do their best to try to find a teacher. And I hope you people have the faith in them that, that they're gonna do it, okay? But again, I just recommend that everybody coming out, especially on a night like tonight, it's cold, So even that adds to it, because I was even wondering whether to come to the meeting, because it's cold out there, an old man like me, I really can feel it, But again, I'm glad to see everybody, I really am, all right? Keep up expressing yourself, you understand? Even when you're going through life, if you don't speak up, you won't be heard. Okay? That's all I got to say.
I know I'm not supposed to talk again, but these are volunteer jobs. We come out because we care deeply about education and things, being on the board, and this makes it so worthwhile, you guys coming out, so thank you.
Yes.
Can I just add, Laura O'Brien from Hebron, I just wanted to add on because people keep saying that 7th grade was the concern, but I too got the paperwork. My oldest 2 daughters both take Latin and love it. My younger daughter, who's in 6th grade going into 7th grade, got the paperwork. And again, it was to pick your language, but on top of that it says this will be your language through middle school. It was very clear. So I'm hearing that you're still going to be looking to hire somebody. I hope that those forms don't come in and people think, well, everybody wants Spanish or French anyway, because those are our only 2 options on the form, and they're due next week. So just keep that in mind.
Any other, I can assure you of this, that, and I'm speaking out of turn, but I'm not sure if there's any more public comments, because I just want to let everybody know that there's nothing on the agenda tonight, and this is the big letdown, because we're about to go into discussions about insurance, a budget, and a lot of stuff that's going to make everyone's eyes glaze over for the most part. So, but I don't want you to think that your voices and your views and your opinions have not been heard, and that each and every one of us as a board member will take the information that you have. Mrs. Schuster, yes, 1 second, I'll address you in a second. And we'll continue with public comment if we can, but I don't want you to lose sight of the fact that we're not taking this information and your input and the input of our leadership within the administration seriously to try to make the best solution. That communication piece that you have, I think Dr. Sharusi is going to make some specific comments about that in a second, but we will make sure that we do our best to try to fix the communications around this so that you understand it. And with that, Mr. Sharusi, if you wouldn't mind standing up, please.
I guess I'm speaking as administration.
You pick whatever you want.
Thank you. Originally, we had gone to the program committee with a deadline. We did not want to strand students in 8th grade without a world language teacher. So the intention was good. Obviously, we had worked out since then some ways that we could offer Latin for 7th graders. It's actually in the schedule that we could. Our main concern is finding somebody to teach. I've heard all the different things. I've experienced with my colleagues in the area that difficulty. We will send out a corrected version of any registration form that was recently sent to include the Latin option. It's not due until, well, I don't know what the schools are saying, but it's due to us by January 6th, which usually means the following Monday. We've been known to extend the deadline if we need
So, and thank you for making that clarification. Dr. Sieminski, if I'm asking on behalf of the board, can we make sure that an updated communication goes out to the middle schools?
Absolutely.
The latest information?
The elementary.
The elementary school, sorry. Anyone else would like to address the board? Hearing none, thank you very much for your time, for coming out. Like you said, it's a breath of fresh air, because not a lot of times kids come out to fight for some academic programs, which is really unusual.
And politely and well-spoken and articulate.
And alumni too, which
And we
is.
expect you all to be at the January meeting.
Anybody knows a Latin teacher?
Find a Latin teacher, that's your challenge.
That's the challenge.
Your alumni.
That's the call.
Start your recruiting efforts, start your webpage.
Become a Latin teacher.
I'm sorry, I just want to get back to the.
And of course,
I do have a recommendation for the agenda. But does anybody have other additions or deletions? Yes, go ahead.
I'd like a discussion of possible action regarding policy adoption, because I was just informed that he brought what was really a policy question in front of the subcommittee, where we need that policy question in front of the full board before he can go out and ask to change a form that says we're not going to adopt Latin.
So your motion is discussion and possible action regarding
Policy adoption.
policy adoption as it relates to.
As it relates in
to
general.
In general. Okay.
Do you want to bring that before the policy subcommittee instead?
No, I want to bring it up now so, because it was brought in front of the subcommittee for what needs to be a board action.
So is there a second? Second by Amy. Yep. Second by Amy. Discussion. Bruce?
Just in general, to understand that you can bring them in front of the subcommittee because they're supposed to bring them up to the board. So therefore, there's got to be a timeline. They got to realize that you need that timeline built in, and it seems like
My
this
question
is.
for you, and I guess, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm trying to understand this. So the question of the form of whether or not we offer Latin, you're saying is a policy?
Is a policy decision, not a, so the subcommittee was supposed to look at it, say yes, no, and then it goes to the full board for a vote. Not, it goes out as a thing to all the parents that say we're not offering it anymore.
Right, but I'm trying to understand the policy. What policy do we have that says it's Latin as a course?
No, I'm saying it's a policy issue as to what can be taken in and out by a subcommittee. Because it can't, but it was brought up that way.
No, it wasn't brought up that way at all. What happened was there was a report given to the program committee last week, and tonight you were going to get your first report. There was a discussion about a possible.
But unfortunately, the administration took that as a policy.
Well, I think they took that, I don't know if they took that as a policy, but
Well,
they used, right.
They used that incorrectly, so
I
I just
think it
want
was
to
in
share.
reaction to, right, but I don't know if it's, but that's fine, we'll go ahead
Okay.
and we'll have the discussion and do it, because I don't think anyone agrees with what you're saying, disagrees with what you're saying.
Right.
I think it's just a matter of what interpretation was coming out of that.
Right, exactly.
Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor of adding the item to the agenda, discussion and possible action on policy adoption? Say aye? Aye. How many? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. So we'll make this item number,
9.5.
thank you, 9.7. Yeah. Are there any other changes? Because I have one. I need a motion for executive session, so we need 2/3 approval for this. We need a motion to add to the following agenda item under executive session, discussion concerning 2 attorney-client privilege written memoranda procedures for the DCF and police investigation and disposition of funds from class accounts to be added to the executive session. We'd like the superintendent to be part of that discussion. A motion made by Mr. Jacobson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Olmsted. Any discussion or questions? It's an executive session, so I really can't get into the details. All those in favor of amending the agenda to add this to the executive session, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. So we'll have an expansion of the executive session. I'll help you with the wording. Okay, thank you. Any other items to add or delete?
I'd like to point out something, I don't want to actually add it, it was supposed to be on the agenda, but I do want to make sure we get it on the agenda next week. Last month, we had a discussion about mascot that was supposed to be on this month's agenda, and,
Actually, it wasn't. But we can talk about it.
yeah, I thought we agreed on that in last meeting, and the traffic, we were supposed to talk to the SRO on the traffic.
Oh, for tonight?
So can we make sure we do that next month?
Okay, that brings us to item number 6, report of the administration. Dr. Smith, 6.1, health insurance funding.
The health insurance consortium originated from meeting regularly since July. We pretty met every Monday trying to put together a document that would allow the insurance company to go forward and to create a trust agreement that would deal with the finances. As you know, we had an all boards meeting on September 14th where we talked about the proposal. What we're in the process of finalizing now is, number 1, the agreement for the consortium, the agreement for the financial arrangements, and then lastly, a workflow for the how the funds would be paid to the various vendors. We're in the throes of finalizing that, and what I'm going to be doing is asking the other members of the consortium if they're interested in continuing that, and because I think that we put a lot of work into it, there's a lot more work ahead of us, and I'm looking for a way to ensure that this continues, because I think in the long run, though the first year might have a larger expenditure than we anticipated, but in the long run, I think that we can save a considerable amount of money if we self-insure ourselves. So I think that that's where it is. I know the sense of the board, of the previous board, was that the board wanted to go forward with it, and I'd like a sense of the board now, because again, there's been a lot of time, effort going into trying to get this organization off the ground. We're meeting tomorrow with the attorney to finalize what that consortium agreement would look like, and to take a look at the trust agreement, again, how the finances would be handled. So that it's a rather complex issue. It's one that would involve the health insurance of about 1,100 people. We're probably looking at premiums in excess of $4 million. So we're talking about a very serious thing, and one that, as we had proposed to the board in the past, in the long run would save the board a considerable amount of money.
Any questions?
Just one question. So this consortium that you have around the self-funded agreements with the towns, is there any consideration to go back and modify the I don't know what you call it, the voting rights? It's my understanding.
That's one of the things that's key to me, because as you recall, the initial agreement said Rham with the highest percentage of